Hello and welcome back to the garden. And it's been a while since I've published a video here on YouTube, but I did start to film a few planting sequences yesterday. I intend to carry on with the planting today, and while we're working around the garden, I'll give you a tour of what's in flower here at the end of May in my English country garden. So let's start with what I filmed yesterday here in the White Garden. So the first plant to add to the White Garden today is this rose. This is Starlight Symphony and it's a climbing rose, and it's from a breeder in Yorkshire here in the UK called Harkness Roses, and it won the Rose of the Year 2019, and it's stunning. And the reason why I bought it is I already grow this and it's in the border behind the camera, and I've had great success with this rose. And I don't very often here, particularly here in the White Garden. Tried roses before, they've all failed miserably. They all fall foul of different fungal diseases. So I gave up on them with the exception of this one. And that's why I bought another one. And I'm going to add it to this border to my right here. It has lovely, very deep green glossy leaves, which it keeps right throughout the summer and never succumbs to fungal diseases, fingers crossed. And it produces repeat lovely semi-double white flowers with the stamens, I think if I remember rightly, very pale pink stamens in the centre. It has a lovely perfume, quite a spicy perfume, and it grows up to about 2.5 metres. Now, I can't actually get you in because of the camera angles to see how I'm planting this, but this is the mixture that I'm using. It's a combination of farmyard manure, garden compost and garden soil, and that should give it a lovely good start to grow. This is my lovely healthy rose, lovely root system on it, and what I'm going to add to help to promote good root growth once it's planted in the ground is a scoopful of this mycorrhizal fungi, and I'm just going to spread it on the roots of the actual rose. And I'll also add a scoopful into the bottom of the planting hole. There's some debate these days on planting roses. Do you plant it as it's arrived in the pot, so the root ball is level with the ground, or do you bury it above the graft point? There's pros and cons to both ways. Apparently burying the graft point into the ground can prevent suckering. Also, it helps when there's heavy winds. It stops the rose from blowing around too much, disturbing the roots. But it's a personal choice. I think you have to do the research, take on board what the experts tell you. And in this case, I'm going to plant the rose level as it's arrived in the pot with the ground. I did plant the rose. It's just tucked in underneath the obelisk. It was too tight an angle to fit the camera into film, but let me show you the same variety of rose in the border on the other side. This will be what it looks like hopefully in a year's time. You can see this one is about 6 foot tall. Look at those glossy green leaves shining in the sunshine, and it's full of buds, so in a couple of weeks that should just bloom like crazy. Lovely butterflies and bees all over these alliums. Just before we move on to planting elsewhere, I'll give you a quick tour of the White Garden. Here are foxgloves just starting to open, as are the alliums. Probably not an awful lot yet in flower around this section. Hydrangeas full of promise of what's yet to come. The alliums on this side full of bees and butterflies. They're really enjoying these alliums this year in the sunshine. Sprinkled right throughout these 4 borders are perennials. I do allow them just to self-seed everywhere. This one just tucked in at the back there. Geraniums all starting to open in this hot sunshine that we have at the moment. A lot more perennials. That's post-fed white. And then a glimpse of lupins of what's to come in the next couple of weeks. That's for bascums. Behind, veronicastrums, more geraniums. This monster here is a regencia, which just is getting out of hand. More primulas. The two giant shrubs are Viburnum mauricii, Astrantias, yet to fully open. Filipendula at the back here. Behind those, rhododendron shrubs. That is Madame Maison. Very pretty white flower. I think that's probably it that's in bloom so far here in the White Garden. I like the plants down the sides of this path. This is Brunera Silver Heart. Planted two small cuttings that I took from the larger perennial further up there, and hopefully they should come into full growth in a couple of weeks. And I think that's it for now here in the White Garden. So the next couple of plants that I want to add are into this hot border. Now this is quite the opposite to the White Garden. This, at this time of year, is full of blues, purples, reds and oranges. But I don't have enough orange, so I'm going to add a few new orange perennials into this spot. Now you probably think there's not enough room, but it's quite a big spot actually when you're in here. And the first one is a Geum, and this is totally tangerine. And I grow this already further on down the border, so I know it likes this spot. And it's a plant for the front to the middle of the border. So when it's fully grown, it should stand above this Nepeta in the front, which is Walker's Low. Lost a little bit for now, but hopefully throughout the summer it'll grow on. And I have them further on down, and it's grown to about 2.5 to 3 feet. And it probably spreads about 12 to 18 inches in spread, in width. The next one that I've got to add is further on back again, and that one's a Salvia. The next plant that I'm adding here, pretty much to the back of the border, is a Salvia. Now this is Salvia amistad, one of my favourites to grow. For me, I treat this as an annual. I can't get this one through the winter without digging them up and overwintering them in the potting shed. Don't like my wet garden. But for some people it's a perennial. Probably further on south of the UK you can get it through the winter. It's more winter hardy, but certainly not for me. But it grows to about 4 feet in height, so it's a nice tall salvia, spread about 2 to 2.5 feet. Lovely purple drooping flowers. It's just started to bud up. Has a very long flowering season, from about June for me again, through till October, sometimes till November. And I've got a nice area at the back here that I'm going to add a couple of them. Let me bring you into the border here at the back so you can actually see what surrounds this salvia. Now I do have an access path around the back of this border, and it makes life so much easier when you can actually climb into the border without standing on all the perennials. And it's not anything other than a solid earth path, solid ground. It's just an area that's never been cultivated, and it makes for ideal access. Just make my way through past all of the shrubs at the back. This is Crocosmia lucifer, first plant that I've come across. Then you have some very pretty alliums, Allium Christophersi, I think that's what it is. And here is the salvia that I'm just about to add. And I've got space for a few more. So let's just wander in the border. In front of the salvia you have Solidago, and then the Nepeta, and then obviously alliums running right through this border. Let me step over And you have the Geum, total tangerine. At the back, more Crocosmia lucifer. And if I just work my way through without standing on anything, you have the poppies. I think that's Beauty of Livermore. At the back I have 3 large shrubs which I've limbed up, and they are hydrangea limelights. More daylilies at the front. More geraniums. What else? I've got heleniums at the far end, ligularia. Quite a few different perennials at that side. And then at the back you have this geranium. This is a geranium fame. This has flowered right throughout this border. It's a self-seeder. It's very pretty, purple with a white centre. And it just self-seeds everywhere, and it really blends in nicely with all of the alliums this time of year. Right at the very back you have Achillea cloth of gold. And then if I just turn around this way without standing on anything, you have Alstroemeria. That's Indian summer. It's a nice orange one, nice big drift running through there. Rudbeckias at the front, then Alchemilla mollis, and grasses, and on and on and on. So I think that gives you a flavour of what type of plants that I grow here in the hot border. Back in the white garden to add a new plant to me, and I think they're probably pretty new here to the UK. Let me show you the label. It is Veronica Magic Show White Wands. And if you can see the logo here, it's a Proven Winners plant. Now this particular Proven Winners perennial is new to me. I'm not quite sure how long it's been available here in the UK. We don't get too many of the Proven Winner plants, certainly here this far north. A couple of shrubs that I've seen in the garden centres, a few perennials, haven't as yet seen many annuals. But when I saw this, I wanted to give it a go. Now Proven Winners is a US plant breeding specialist who bring out new varieties of perennials, shrubs and annuals every year, and they go through rigorous testing before they're actually brought to market. So they're disease resistant, they have long flowering periods, and they have a fabulous reputation with obviously landscapers and plant horticulturists. So I wanted to give this particular perennial a go here in the white garden. Now this is obviously a white Veronica. We have Veronicas here in the UK which have been available to us to buy for many years, but certainly not this variety. Grows to 60 centimetres, which is about 2 feet in height, and about 40 centimetres in spread, which is about 18 inches. Now I'm adding them to the front of this border. Normally you would plant something low growing, but I wanted to plant something a little bit higher because I have the benches here and I wanted to be able to see whatever I plant above the bench. So I'm going to give these a go, and we'll see how they do in my northern garden. Got a nice root system. It's been grown on here locally by my local nursery. So I'm adding a little bit compost to the planting hole. I can hear all the bees buzzing behind me here on the alliums. Not recommended to break your hydrangea. But that's the first one, and I've got 2 more to add, and I've got the same for the other side. That's all 3 perennials planted. They do bloom from May till September. Once the first flush is over, you just cut them back and they should rebloom. I'll bring you back in a couple of weeks to show you how everything's doing. Last planting of today is in the lower quarry. These borders now, shade borders, are pretty much finished with the spring displays. Lots of cleanup required throughout all of the borders in this section. And the star of the shade border so far are these heucherellas. Now this is Heucherella Pink Revolution. And I don't often recommend plants because obviously growing conditions are different in every garden, but this is certainly one that if you can see it, if you can buy it, get your hands on it, I would certainly give it a go because it's just gorgeous. Okay, so now in the lower quarry, for anyone new to the channel, this area is all under development. So it's not as tidy or as I would like it to be, but I'm getting there. This is the entrance to the bog garden, which is on two sides. You've got this side here, which is more or less complete now, and this side, as you can probably see, is nowhere near. And this is where I'm going to be adding some hostas down there. But the perennials that I added about 4 or 5 weeks ago, they have done so well. I couldn't be more delighted with them. I just love the conditions, the damp conditions down here. This one at the front here, this white one, is postford white. Obviously they all came from the white garden. And these ones I grow elsewhere. And these ones are apple blossom. So pretty. And that's predominantly what most of these perennials are, because obviously I'm just taking them from elsewhere in the garden. This is a gunnera, which I did manage to buy and plant a year before they became banned here in the UK. If you have them, you can grow them in the garden. You just can't allow them to seed or pass them on to anybody else. So I was pretty fortunate to be able to buy and plant that before the ban came into force. This is the ornamental rhubarb, I should say. It's a rheum. And more perennials around the back. More of the postford white, just make sure I don't fall into the pond here. And quite a few of the apple blossom. And then I do have other colours of perennials at the far end, which are just coming into flower at the back of the pond. And another ornamental rhubarb. And another mixture of all the different perennials. And the hosta at the front is Hosta Francis. I just added these about 4 weeks ago. Again, they all came from cuttings and seedlings out of the white garden. But let me take you down through the bog garden. Lots of astilbes. They love the shaded boggy conditions. These ones are pink varieties. And you have all different kinds of perennials all the way around here. This is a major problem that I'm having this year with rabbits. They've devoured all of the grasses. They were huge, the best they've ever been. And there's literally very little left. Never mind, more stilbes, all budding up, getting ready to flower. And then on this side is what the grasses used to look like. Just there. They're all Carex grasses. More perennials. These are the Himalayan primula. They won't flower until the summer. And then the entrance to the bog garden, we have lots of different regersias. Just thought I would venture out of the bog garden for a few minutes to film one of my favourite rhodies. This one is Cosmopolitan. Here is another lovely soft pink. Can't remember what variety this one is. I'd have to check on that. Very pretty though. This variegated rhodie has yet to open up. It's full of buds, but it hasn't flowered yet. But let's go back into the bog garden to get on with the next project, which is Just walking past all of these regersias. You can see how big these leaves are by the size of my hand. Huge leaves. And why I have so many of these, the rabbits and deer don't eat them, which is a bonus. And I have so many of them because I split and divide them every year. Started off with one plant, now I have many, and that's just happened in the last couple of years. When you have the right conditions for moisture loving plants like these, they certainly grow very quickly. Many primulas, because I have so many seeds from them every year, and it's basically just a question of throwing the seeds around. I don't actually grow them in trays or compost. And you can see here's a clump of new seedlings, which would have been from last year's flowers. And why I have so many of the same plants is because when you have a big space like this, you have to make as much use of all of the self-seeders and splitting perennials that you have, because you can't obviously buy everything that you need all in one go. Oops, and I'll just pivot back to show you what's left of the rhodies, which are just coming to the end of their blooming now because of this hot weather that we have. And then on this side is the rest of the bog garden, all of these perennials yet to flower. That will be a tour for another day. So the last job of today before the sun goes down, hopefully you'll see this before it gets dark, is to add some hostas that I dug up and split 15 months ago. I'm embarrassed to say that. They've sat ever since on a tarpaulin, and every now and again I water them, but they've survived. But where I want to add them is around what will be a water feature. And why I'm trying to get them in the ground tonight is because we are due a couple of weeks of rain. After a very dry spell, the ground dried out quite nicely. It's never going to be dried, but at least I don't sink into it. So I'm trying to get them planted tonight before the rains. Around what will be a water feature in the middle here, which isn't finished yet, I'm going to add cobbles all the way around in a circle. So I wanted to add these hostas in a semicircle to start with, just to see if I like the design of them. So that's the objective. Get these in the ground as soon as I can. Can't move it, but it's in. Managed to plant some of the hostas a couple of evenings ago, but since then we've had nothing but rain, so I haven't been able to come down here and progress this project any further. Hopefully we'll see that in the next video. Just also like to say before I go, I've had a few technical problems with the wireless microphones that I use. I'm hoping it hasn't spoilt the video too much for anyone. But that's it for today. Just like to thank everyone for watching as usual. Really appreciate all the support that you give me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.